Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You know, people come into our lives and sometimes they leave our lives and we only know them for a short amount of time. Their whole existence can kind of almost feel like a flower. You know, it blooms and then it dies and you have this short window of experience to enjoy it. You know, flowers aren't forever. There have been a lot of random people just in my life in weird scenarios that have had an effect on me, that have had a big effect on me. Part of that has been my openness and willingness to talk to people that I don't know just at random. If we're in an elevator together, trust me, I'm going to sit there and look at you, and as soon as you look over, I'm going to be like, how you doing? Whereas some people might just sit and stare at the wall or look at their phone. I was in an elevator in Beverly Hills going to the doctor with that actress Jennifer Tilly, and it was a very similar time period to where she did The Bride of Chucky or whatever it was. And she still looked good. I think she gained a lot of weight. I think I saw a picture of her recently, but she still looked pretty good back then. She gets on the elevator, it's just me and her. This is before cell phones. If she had a cell phone now, she could just sit there and scroll on her cell phone, but she sat there and stared at the wall like she was counting the fucking splinters in the wood. And I just sat there and stared at her like a creep. Because I figured, hey, it's Jennifer Tilly, she's hot, we're similar age, why not start up a conversation? This is a great opportunity. I'll ask her out, why not? You know, I'm cool. And she did everything she could to avoid conversation with me. And she got off like the next floor. She probably got off and waited for another elevator because I was such a creep. But I like talking to people. You know, I'm totally interested in just chatting with random people, because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what's going to happen. I've met some great friends over just some random things. People at a bus stop. A friend that I still know to this day. I've known him for 38 years, something like that. We met at a bus stop when we were kids. I'll tell you about a guy that I met that had just a little effect on me. He was just a flower in my life. This guy Benny, he's an old Jewish guy, like my grandfather's age, World War II generation, maybe even a little older. This was back in the late 90s, 97, 98, something like that, I forget exactly. And I had moved out of Hollywood, so it probably was 98, and I moved down to Culver City. I got sick of Hollywood. Too many freaks and weirdos in Hollywood. I was like, you know, I just need to live around regular people. I moved down to Culver City. Culver City was no better. Culver City sucked. Fucking gangsters. I saw a couple shootings in Culver City. It was hard for me to find a place that I could feel comfortable. But I was still going up to Hollywood because I had friends up there. But there was also this barbecue place I used to like to go to. Best barbecue in town. Delicious. Fucking delicious. Beef ribs. They had the best beef ribs. Oh, it was great. Expensive though. And I would just sit, I'd get messy, fucking put a bib in my shirt and just, my whole face would be covered in barbecue sauce, and I would just eat like an animal. If we go to lunch together there's no talking. There's just eating. Like lions. You can't park on Melrose. There's no spaces open ever. So I would go into the neighborhood, and I ended up parking always on the same block because there was always parking spaces on that block, and it was a old building on the corner that was a old folks home. So I would park near the old folks home, parallel park, walk down, go to the barbecue place. On one of those occasions, there's this old guy sitting in his wheelchair right out in front of the old folks home, kind of near the entrance, but off to the side, little patio area. And he makes eye contact with me right away. And that's one of the things that I do. You know, some people, when they are out in public, they intentionally try to avert their eyes from meeting eye contact with others. Maybe it's out of fear. I'm not sure why people do that. I'm the opposite. I have this kind of warrior-like thing. If anybody comes near me, I'm engaging you. because, you know, we're about to get into each other's space. So I'm making eye contact, especially men. I make eye contact with every motherfucking man that walks by, and I'll give a nod. And it used to be an old school street code that you would give a motherfucker a respectful nod. And if you walked by a guy with your head down or you didn't give him a nod, that was weird. And it could be conceived of as disrespect. And you got to watch how you navigate. So I'm always scanning. I caught eye contact with this old man right away. He was like, yo, you got a light? And he kind of had this way of talking that I could tell was from the streets. He didn't sound like he was hanging out with fucking Queen Elizabeth. This guy sounded like he had been in the alleyways, maybe in a prison cell, at least once or twice in his life. He just kind of had that attitude about him. But he was a real old man. His fucking arms were skinny, and he had purple bruises and shit on him, and he didn't look very healthy. He shouldn't have been smoking. And he had a fucking big fat joint in his hand. I thought it was a cigarette. I didn't know it was a joint. I had a lighter. I went over and gave him the lighter, and he lit it up. And I asked him, I was just like, you smoking weed? And he was like, what are you, a cop? And I burst into laughter. I was like, no, I'm just wondering. You know, that smells like weed. And he was like, it is. You want a hit? So I sat there and smoked a joint with this old guy. His name was Benny. And we start chatting, and, you know, we start talking about our lives. What do you do? And, he was asking me what kind of stuff I do for a living. And I had kind of revealed to him that I had just gotten off the streets, and I was fresh off the streets. I had been on some of the most crazy robbery sprees and criminal shit that I had ever done. I got to a certain level, and then I got out of the game. My dad had always told me, use the fucking game like a bathroom. You get in, you get out. These long-time lifers, career motherfuckers, they're career fucking prisoners. That's where they end up. So you want to have longevity, you get out. And that's what I did. And this guy's fucking eyes lit right up. Bam. And he starts telling me all kinds of stories about his days in the streets of Los Angeles. And he knew Mickey Cohen, he knew Bugsy Siegel, he knew all these Jewish gangsters, these famous Jewish gangsters. Some of the stories this guy had were just amazing, what movies are made of. And he talked about celebrities, and he talked about Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan was a mob hangaround. He never suggested that Ronald Reagan was trying to join anything like that or trying to engage in criminal behavior. He was just an actor in Hollywood who would go to certain mob clubs, social clubs or bars or nightclubs that were where these guys were, and just hang out with them because he liked them. He just liked tough guys. He liked the mobsters had this certain kind of rebelliousness and tough guy kind of attitude, alpha male kind of attractiveness that he just kind of liked. And you could find Ronald Reagan back in this is what he told me about all kinds of old movie stars, Lucille Ball, and all kinds of people that he had hung out with, and me and him became friends. I went by there every week and hung out with him, and we just became friends. I looked forward to it. The barbecue place shut down, and I missed him. I thought about it all week. And I drove by there during the week one time. I would always go there on the same day, mainly to see Benny. And I was like, well, the barbecue place is shut down. You know what? I'm just going to go up there anyways. And I went up there, and I would just sit around with this guy for 2 hours right out front. We just smoked that joint of his and chat about all kinds of stuff. He would give me advice on women and just all kinds of stuff. He became my buddy. One day I went up there to go see him, and he wasn't there. I walked up and down the block for a while. I didn't want to just stand out in front of some old folks' home. They'd call the police or something. And I didn't see him. I went up there again. I went up there 4 times in a row. I didn't see him. And finally, on the 4th time, it dawned on me. I should have realized sooner that Benny was dead. He had passed on. And I went through a little grieving period, for about a week, feeling really sorry that he had died, and that I felt so glad that I had met this crazy old gangster, Jewish gangster, with all these stories about the Jewish mafia, the kosher nostra, as he would call it. And it was just random. He was just a random person. I was just walking down the street one day, going to get some barbecue. So, I don't know if there's any lessons in this. Maybe this is just a story, but be more open-minded towards random meetings. Look out more instead of down. Smile more. Be willing to chat with people and feel safe. Not everybody's out to get you. I've met some pretty amazing people this way. Benny died many years ago, but rest in peace, Benny the Gangster. Thanks for watching.